Today I'm going to do something a little different from normal, and we're going to watch the Ocarina of Time remake trailer that just dropped today in the Nintendo Direct. I've already seen it once. I'm going to just watch it through one time, and then I'm going to scrub back and forth and just kind of look at what's going on. So here it is.
Long ago, there was a land called Hyrule, created by beings of supreme divinity. At the very edge of this kingdom, there lay a small forest. Within it, an ancient solitary tree quietly watched over the inhabitants of the forest. These forest dwellers were called the Kokiri. Each had a fairy companion, and they lived out their innocent lives in these woods. However, there was one particular boy who did not have a fairy.
All right, well, that was interesting. Let's not watch someone else's video. All right. So one thing as I was watching that actually got me pretty interested was in this bottom left, you can see these little light rays coming off. We ended up not seeing any of that part of this tapestry during the rest of the trailer, but I wonder what's there. You'd kind of assume that maybe it's the Triforce or something.
Long ago, there was a land
I don't know. I feel like we're seeing the majority of this like circle shape, and I don't see anything in that space. But maybe it's just like something below. Either way, I'm guessing the Triforce is in that spot. But we'll have to see. Maybe a pedestal. Maybe it wouldn't be the Temple of Time itself because that's too big. But maybe the Ocarina of Time. Maybe that's what's in that spot. Another thing that I'm noticing here is the tensing here. Long ago, there was a land called Hyrule, created by beings of supreme divinity. One thing that I've seen discussed among some of my friends here is the perspective of the narrator, whether or not they are contemporary with these events, or maybe, maybe this is happening. Maybe this is a story being told in some particular timeline or something like that. A lot of the Zelda games are characterized as like a story, though, so it's probably nothing. The kind of the context there is the person who's talking a person that we're gonna know, or is this just a random voice? Some people have guessed that maybe it's like the Great Deku Tree talking. I don't really think that makes sense with the language being used here, but you can kind of imagine that this is some random Hylian guy sometime ambiguously in the future telling the story to someone else. I wonder if this is the Temple of Time here on the right. I'm just noticing this now. There's a Triforce. You can see it right here. I don't remember. I didn't see that the first time watching this. That's clearly Hyrule Castle in the background, but maybe this part right here is supposed to be the Temple of Time. I feel like I recognize this what was it called, Keystone or something? I feel like I recognize this pattern here with this little triangle-y shape or whatever, but also look at the Great Deku Tree. You see all these roots? We've never seen the Great Deku Tree look so eldritch before. Good for him.
old Hyrule, created by beings of supreme divinity.
Also, the voice itself, back on the idea that this could be the Great Deku Tree talking, the voice himself does not sound like a Great Deku Tree. It just sounds like a dude.
At the
There's
very edge of this kingdom,
the Kokiri
there
Village
lay a
theme.
small forest.
Yeah, look at that Great Deku Tree design. This is kind of insane, to be honest. I didn't really look at it this close the first time watching, but this like root pattern is like kind of bonkers. Very cool. Also of note, oh, that's interesting. The bottom of the Great Deku Tree, the roots or whatever, they're kind of hugging this whatever these light rays are kind of encircling. The roots are covering it. They're following the curve of it, which I guess could imply that it's what the Great Deku Tree is protecting of some sorts. One thing I also wonder is, does the positioning of this tree have any impact here on the Ocarina of Time map? Because in Ocarina of Time, the Great Deku Tree was like southeast of the castle, like south or southeast. Kokiri Village was in the south, but clearly we can see the castle right here on the bottom. Honestly, it almost looks like he's floating. So I think the position here does not matter at all. I think he's superimposed on top of this.
Within
Not literal.
an ancient solitary tree quietly watched over the inhabitants of the forest.
That's just describing the game. Also, this tapestry is cool. I wonder if it's going to be in the game. I would imagine it would. You never know, but it would be cool if it was in the game.
Were called the Kokiri.
You can see on the left here, this is a girl Kokiri. Got the little dress on. Then you got the one. This is the if you play the original. This is I forget the names of the Kokiri, or if it was even a named person doing it. But there was one Kokiri that was like trying to pick up a stone, and he's just in the middle of the village, just trying real hard to pick up a stone. I imagine that's what that is.
Each had a fairy companion, and they lived out their innocent lives in these woods. However, there was one particular boy.
That's the hyper-detailed Link on this tapestry. We got more Kokiri on top. We got one holding the... I assume that's the Kokiri sword. Is the Kokiri sword actually... is that called the Kokiri sword? I forget if it's actually called that, but whatever. Yeah, so there's that. Is that the moon up there in that little circle? This is all very standard, like symbols and stuff here. This stuff looks pretty familiar.
Did not have a fairy.
This is that opening shot from Ocarina of Time where he's having the nightmare. He's got some new duds, though. He's got like a... his Kokiri tunic is a little less green. I don't know, maybe it's just the lighting, but much less green, or more like dark. And he's got... You can see the fabric now, and it's kind of like... Looks kind of itchy, to be honest. Kind of uncomfortable. Although I really like this... this thing he's got over the tunic, though. That's definitely new. That kind of reminds me of like a Twilight Princess outfit. And you can see some swirls there. I think if you look upside down, so that like the direction of Link's feet is the top and Link's head is the bottom, that might be the like the modern, like the Kokiri swirl or whatever it is, or even like the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom era version of that symbol. Maybe. A little hard to tell, though. Anything else we can see? Nope. And we got the Triforce symbol resonating. The Triforce of Courage specifically is resonating, which makes sense. It makes sense that it's that triangle, but in the original, we did not, as far as I remember, we did not have a Triforce symbol appear on Link until he actually obtained a piece of the Triforce. From what I remember, at least. Is that true? Let's find out.
Bring in your AT&T, T-Mobile, Spectrum, or Xfinity bill for a better deal at Verizon.
All right, we'll watch a
In Philadelphia,
an
we
ad
root
real
for the
quick.
home team because they're our team too. And with more than 80...
All right, let's see if we can find when it was that Link had his symbol. Also, was this on his left hand? Yeah. All right, at this point, he does not have it. Nothing would even have happened at any point in this game up until pulling the sword. Because pulling the sword is when the Triforce splits. Because Ganondorf tries to take it. At this point, we should not have it. And we can see on his left hand, he does not have it. So it's only going to be... Can we see it? Can we see it here? Well, either way, we can't see it when he's a child in the original. And yet we can here. So that's going to be something that is a change of some sort. But we have had games, though, where Link does not possess a Triforce, and yet he still has the symbol. In like Skyward Sword, the triangle is kind of filled in as he became worthy, or he became, he overcame the trial that's relevant for them. So it, him having a Triforce symbol here doesn't really mean a whole lot. Then we have that. Anything new? Well, this seems to be like the Wild era, coloring here. The Wild era Zelda is like gold. I don't know if it's the exact same design though. What about the shield? Is the shield any different? Let's look. Let's look for the Ocarina of Time model. All right. So the Ocarina of Time model. Am I able to split this here? No. All right. Okay, that looks like that. All right, 3D version is pretty close. Is that different? It is different. On the top here, the three little indents here, that's not on the original. The original does not have the bolts. That's not there. So there is some slight differences to the design of the shield. I'm sure the sword is also different. But yeah, that certainly seems interesting. I'm not sure there's really a whole lot to glean here. The most interesting things for me still are what is it that's in that bottom left corner?
there was a land called Hyrule.
Potentially,
created
who
by
is it that's
beings of
talking?
Supreme divinity, all forest, and solitary tree.
Where this
quietly
tapestry
watched over
is,
the inhabitants of the forest.
if anywhere at the time of Ocarina of Time. For all we know, this is being told from the future.
These forest dwellers were called the Kokiri, lived out their innocent lives.
I think I think someone
Who
mentioned
did
in
not
one of the
have a
discords I'm in
fairy.
the idea that the story
A
could be
fairy
being this could be getting told to people
These forest
in the adult
dwellers were
timeline.
called
In
the
the adult
Kokiri.
timeline, Hyrule
Each
kind of
had a
ceases to be a
fairy
kingdom,
companion, and
and
they lived
the
out
past
their
tenseness
innocent
of all
lives
this
in these woods.
would fit.
However, there was one particular boy.
You wouldn't say,
solitary tree. There lay a divinity.
you wouldn't say long ago there was a land called Hyrule if you were living in Hyrule. You know, that's like being in the United States and being like, long ago there was a country called the United States. But something else to consider is if the Japanese version of this implies the same thing. For all we know, the language being used in the original Japanese version is just saying that long ago Hyrule existed or came to exist or whatever. So maybe don't read into that too much. I still think this arch on the right looks very familiar, and I can't think of what feels so familiar about it. But something feels really familiar. The Great Deku Tree's appearance, also pretty wild still. That's certainly one way to depict the Great Deku Tree. And again, you can see that he is hovering over whatever it is that's down here. Which again, I'm still assuming this is just the Triforce, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's the Ocarina of Time. Maybe it's not Link, because Link's up there in the upper left. Maybe it's Zelda. Can't really think of any other things that could be so important.
Solitary tree quietly watched over the inhabitants of the forest. These forest dwellers were called
Yep,
the
there's the
Kokiri.
Kokiri. And they're
Each had a
doing
fairy
stuff.
companion, and they lived out
They all
their
have
innocent
fairies, and they're all
lives in
cool.
these woods.
Oh, another thing that's people are going to bring up, this gold pattern around the tapestry, got an eyeball design. Eyeball designs in Zelda are everywhere, but it's got the looking forward, and then it's got the Vati or the Zonai eye looking up kind of design. People are going to bring that up. I guarantee you someone somewhere is going to make a picture that is circling this one eye, circling the eye with the pupil looking up, and then it has another picture of like the Tears of the Kingdom version of that same symbol, and they're just going to like draw a line to it. And they're going to be like, I theorize that something.
One particular boy who did not have a fairy.
Now, for all we know, going back to the idea that this is being told from the future, for all we know, it's not, and this is just a prophecy that exists somewhere. Because the Hero of Time prophecy was a prophecy. This was something that people knew ahead of time, or whether they made it up and it was self-fulfilling or not. The Hero of Time prophecy did exist at the time of Ocarina of Time, and if anybody's going to know of this prophecy, it's going to be like, I don't know, the Sheikah or something. So maybe we'll see this in Kakariko somewhere, maybe like Impa's house, or maybe the old man or something.
Dwellers were called the Kokiri. Each
Although
had a
again, the
fairy
language being used still doesn't
were called
feel right still.
and they lived out their
He's talking
innocent
as if
lives
this stuff
in
is like
these
far in the
woods.
past, not like it's
However,
modern.
there was one particular boy who did not have a fairy.
In terms of how Link actually looks here, I think it looks all right. It's kind of chubby, but maybe that's just the that's just because he's a kid. That's just the proportions. But he looks all right. I really like this leather thing that he has on. It's super cool. Also, maybe I'm seeing a little bit of that. You know how sometimes in games when there's like a light behind a character or something, they kind of get enveloped by like a thin strip of like light over the polygon, over like the 3D body of whatever it is. There's kind of a little bit of a glow here, but maybe that's just his hair reflecting off of these green things or something. Link's having his nightmare here. He's like, he's flinching. His Triforce resonates at the time that he flinches, and based on the dream, we can actually look at the dream real quick. That's the dream with Ganondorf when he's in front of the castle. Oh my god, they're really gonna throw that at him.
Save liberty mutual. Still got it.
Sorry, folks. I'll make sure I have an ad blocker next time.
Cut! Jardians plays a role in my story, too.
Alright. Link is sleeping with his eyes open. Normal stuff. But this is the nightmare that he's having. Presumably, this is the same nightmare that he's going to be having in the remake. I mean, this is from events a little later in the game, where Zelda escapes. But that's happening. Ganondorf shows up. Presumably, this is what's making him flinch. You know, if Nightmare's going to be flinching in his nightmare, or if Link's going to be flinching in his nightmare, it's going to be from that event. So, given all of that, it's a little interesting that the Triforce symbol is resonating when he's encountering Ganondorf. So I think that may be... I don't know what that means, but, you know, there is a... I can't think of which game this would have been a thing in, or if I'm even remembering this correctly. But I feel like there's some part of some game where we get the idea that the Triforce will resonate in the presence of other Triforce pieces. And even though these characters may not actually have Triforce pieces yet, they're going to be. And so it's at least significant that, you know, the crest would resonate at this particular moment. It'd be funny if this is like a regular thing for Link. Every time that he has a nightmare his entire life, Triforce just glows on his hand. Alright, well, I've thought about everything I can think about. So hopefully we get another trailer soon or something. This game's coming out this year, so it won't be that long. I know this wasn't the typical Final Fantasy video, but I really do like Zelda, so I'm trying to... at some point, I'm trying to find some excuses to make some videos like this. So yeah, maybe you'll see more of this again. Maybe you won't. But thanks for watching.